Here we are going to review the AC method for factoring a trinomial, something with three terms, that has a leading coefficient that is not 1. So looking at this first one, we have 3x squared minus x minus 52. So we are going to use the AC method, which starts out by multiplying together a and c. So this is ax squared plus bx plus c is the general form. So a would be 3 and c is negative 52. So we're going to multiply these together. 3 times negative 52 in our calculator and get negative 156. So I want to choose numbers that multiply to be negative 156, which means I have a positive number times a negative number to multiply to be a negative. I want them to add up to be negative 1 though. So I want to choose numbers that differ by 1. So I'm going to grab my calculator and start dividing 156 by some numbers. So I don't want 156 and 1 because those differ by 155. So I might try to divide it by something bigger. So I'm going to do 156 and think about what some factors are. So if we divide it by, say, 3 to start, we would have 3 times 52. Those numbers, if we do 3 minus 52, that's going to be negative 49. We want to add it to be negative 1 though. So I'm going to try to divide by something bigger. I'm going to divide by 13, and 13 times 12 works. I want to add it to be a negative number, so make the bigger number negative. So those would add up to be negative 1. So I'm going to call it positive 12 times negative 13. So I literally just grab my calculator and figure out what numbers even multiply to be 156. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3x squared plus 12x minus 13x minus 52. Because that negative 1x is the same thing as 12x minus 13x. All I did was rewrite the original problem. That way I can now factor by grouping. So I'm going to look at my first group here. The greatest common factor is going to be 3 is the biggest number, x is the least power of x. So 3x times x is 3x squared, and 3x times 4 gives me 12x. My next group here, I'm going to see, can 52 be divided by 13? It can. So I'm going to pull out that negative 13 is the biggest number that goes into both. Negative 13 times x is negative 13x, and negative 13 times a positive 4 would give me that negative 52. So lastly, my answer here is going to be 3x minus 13 times that repeated factor, x plus 4. There's our first review of the AC method. We're going to do the exact same thing all over again. We have some pretty big numbers here, but that's okay. AC method is multiplying a and c together, so 3 times negative 32. 3 times negative 32 is giving me negative 96. And I want factors that differ by 4. So to multiply to be a negative, you have to have a positive times the negative again. And I want factors that differ by 4, but multiply to be that negative 96 that we just said. So if we think about negative 96, I want to think about numbers that go into it. So I could try dividing 96 by maybe 4 and seeing if that works. So we would have 4 times 24. I want to make sure we add up to be a positive 4, so we'd have a negative 4 times 24 would be negative 96. But 24 minus 4 is 20, so we want it to differ by 4. So we're going to go down and think about other factors. So I might divide 96 by 12 and see if that works. So we'd have 12 times 8 is what I'm getting. I want it to add up to be positive 4, so I'm going to make sure the smaller number is the negative 1. 12 times negative 8 is negative 96, but 12 minus 8 is also that positive 4 we need. So 12 times negative 8 is negative 96, and 12 minus 8 is that positive 4. So we're going to rewrite that original problem as 3x squared plus 12x minus 8x minus 32. That's the same exact thing as the original problem. 12x minus 8x is that 4x that we need. So that's perfect. We are ready to do some factoring by grouping. So we're going to group together, pull out a greatest common factor of 3x. 3x times x is 3x squared, and 3x times 4 would give me 12x. I could pull out a negative 8, goes into both 8x, negative 8x, and negative 32. So I'm going to pull out a negative 8 times x is negative 8x, and negative 8 times a positive 4 is negative 32. So lastly, my answer is going to be 3x minus 8 times x plus 4 is my repeated factor. And there are more factoring by grouping examples on my channel.